Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ghost Tea Podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to remind you that everyone has different views on things, and that's okay. I just want to share what I found in my personal path with others. In addition to that, I also have a Patreon where you can have access to subscriber-only episodes for the podcast, in addition to witchcraft how-tos and astrological things and deity work guides. So if you're looking to build your practice or get started with your practice, that's a great resource to check out. And if you're wanting to book a session with me, I'm also available for that. So you can find both the Patreon and personal sessions with me in the link in the description. I'm also going to give a little note here that I apologize if you hear my voice as very nasally because I am currently sick and recovering from a very, very bad cold that has taken me down for about a week. So I apologize for any nasally emphasized things that you're hearing in today's episode. But today I want to go over a topic that has been rumbling around in my brain for the past month or so. And this is partially due to the fact that I am currently listening to an audiobook on the history of witchcraft, which has been fascinating. And also because there was a member in our Discord community, which is free to join, by the way. You can find the link to that in the description as well. Who shared a video from a user on TikTok by the name of No Nonsense Spirituality. And they have a video that went over something really, really interesting. And it wasn't really something that I thought about before I watched the video, but I watched the video and sat with it for a couple weeks, and it's just very, very fascinating. And what they mentioned in the video was that one thing that kind of broke down their belief from their previous religion was that they were starting to be able to tell what kind of gods or religious practices a society would have based on the way that the society worked and was built. I won't go over the entirety of everything that they went over in that video, but I do want to go through a short summary of some things that they mentioned and points that they made. So basically they were talking about how they noticed that societies that were based on trade would then tend to have polytheistic and tolerant gods. So the examples that they used were Hindu and Roman gods, and that was really due to the fact that in order to have effective trade, you had to have a lot of tolerance and ease with different beliefs and religions and things like that to create a nice flow with different trades. And they went on to explain that societies with hierarchy and strict authoritarian leaders at the top would typically result in something similar. So for example, omnipotent and controlling gods, and the example that they used was Islam. Small egalitarian hunter-gatherer societies would typically result in animistic beliefs with gods that were not really watching over your morality until the societies would get big enough that it couldn't self-manage, so that the gods would have to start being ones to take control and create some sort of boundaries in morals for those people. Societies that dealt with unpredictable weather and natural phenomenon would typically result in chaotic and moody gods. So for examples, they gave Mesopotamian and Aztec and mentioned that a lot of rituals were seen in these religions to try to feel safe and like you had a sense of control, and that there was something you could do to appease those gods in order to make them less chaotic. Or with large-scale, stable agricultural societies, you would typically see more benevolent gods due to a long-term cooperation and empathy in order to have long-term stability with that agriculture. Or another example they gave was nomadic. People would typically have punitive gods. So a god that would punish someone if they wronged that person for generations for crimes in order to create some sort of sense of balance and justice. Now, obviously, that's a very quick, short summary of what they talked about and mentioned in the video. So I encourage you to watch the video itself if you are on TikTok, or you can watch it from the main chat within the Discord. But it kind of came up at a perfect time because the idea of what is witchcraft was rummaging around in my brain as I was listening to the History of Witchcraft book. And realizing that people's practice with witchcraft and what we do with our witchcraft is so based upon the experiences that we have in our lives, and the approaches that we take to it is based on those experiences and our beliefs and what we need in our lives at that time. Over the years, being within spirituality and being within spiritual circles and having conversations with people, the topic of, what is witchcraft? Is it spicy psychology? Is it actual magic that happens? Is it something that we do to appease our own inner feelings on something? Is it just more so a way for us to deal with things? Or is it actually an energetic output that is affecting the things around us? And that has always been in the back of my mind, not as a thing to make me question my beliefs or question my practice, but more so of a way to help me understand it on a deeper level. Because for me personally, I don't necessarily care whether or not my practice is something that is truly magical in the sense of this energetic manipulation that causes things to happen, or if it was something that helped me feel better about things. Because regardless, at the end of the day, if it helped me feel better about it, even if it didn't actually change the outcome, then that's really all that mattered to me, because it helped me to have some sense of control over what was happening in my life, or have some control over how I was dealing with it and how I was managing and moving through an experience. But it does bring the question to mind of like, what is it for you on a personal level, and why would that matter or not matter? And all of this was kind of simultaneously also aligning with a topic that kept coming up within my therapeutic sessions with my therapist around OCD. And I've mentioned that I have OCD many times on the podcast before, but something that my therapist has been helping me work through is where in my life I have had behavioral patterns or things that I do within my relationship and my life and things like that, where I don't even realize that I'm trying to have some sense of control over a situation, and that results in these obsessive compulsive behaviors. So for some people, OCD can translate through them needing to check a doorknob or check a lock multiple times to make sure that they have a sense of control over the fact that they are set on knowing that something has happened. So maybe their brain isn't able to process, yes, the door is locked, unless they lock the door 5 times, or, they're not able to mentally process that their hands are clean unless they wash their hands multiple times over, and then they're able to find peace with it, right? So when I was watching that video and thinking about the history of witchcraft and what witchcraft is and what spiritual craft is and what people's beliefs are and then what OCD is, then it just all kind of came together and I was like, holy shit. Like, witchcraft in some sense is very similar to OCD. And I don't say that as a bad thing, but it just made me realize that, for a lot of people, religion and spiritual belief and things of that nature really just boils down to what we need in our lives to move through society and deal with the situations that we're experiencing in our lives. Because for me, witchcraft was a way for me to feel like I had a sense of power after feeling powerless within my previous belief, which was Christianity. And for people who come to witchcraft practice from a space of not having previously been in a religion or having a belief where they're under the control of a god, it's maybe going to be very, very different in the sense of how they approach their witchcraft. They might not approach witchcraft of, I'm wanting to find power, but maybe more so, I'm wanting to find a way to better my life, And not that people can't find differing ways to approach their practice, in that sense of, if you come from the background of Christianity, it's not that you can't feel also that you want to better your life and vice versa. But it just was very interesting to me how, when she was describing the different beliefs that stem from the different societies that people come from, it really does match with the different witchcraft practices that people have based on what kind of experiences and what kind of cultures and societies and, experiences that they come from and that they've had in their lives, and how that shapes their craft from that. That kind of brings me to my next point of, why is it important for us to know, or kind of understand on a personal level at the very least, what witchcraft is for us? And really that comes down to that the importance is that understanding what witchcraft is for you, what your spiritual practice is for you on a personal level, helps you to understand why you approach it the way that you do, why it is okay for people to have different approaches to witchcraft, because there is a constant debate happening within spiritual circles and witchcraft circles, etc., religious circles even, of, well, you're believing this wrong because XYZ, and my belief says that you can't believe this, things like that. And it really boils down to the fact that it is going to be based on what you need at the time, what you need in your life, and what you need to feel safe. And I want to reiterate that I'm not saying that that means that, if someone believes that their beliefs are the only right belief, that it makes it okay for them to push that on others. But more so of, I just feel like if people looked at their spiritual practice and their beliefs and their religion, etc., through the lens of, why do I believe this? What has shaped my beliefs? And why do I approach my spiritual practice or my religion from the space that I do? And when we approach it from that space, suddenly spiritual belief, spiritual practice, religion is seen from such a different perspective, because it's suddenly less about, am I doing the right thing? Am I following the right thing? And more so about, does this make sense for me? Do you realize that? Like, it just made me realize that I truly wonder if people were to approach it from that sense, if it would take away a lot of the fear that people feel around switching from one religion to a spiritual practice. Like, for example, a lot of people who move from Christianity into, witchcraft practice or other spiritual beliefs that are very different, kind of go through this sense of, am I doing the right thing, or am I going to be punished in hell forever once I die because I'm doing the wrong thing, Now, having said all of that, I want to go through a couple journal and or thought prompts for you that I really encourage you to sit with, not to make you question your beliefs or anything like that, or really change the way that you believe, but more so to understand why you believe what you do on a deeper level. And maybe this is my inner sociologist coming through, because I truly believe that if I ever went back to college, that was probably going to be the major that I went into, but I digress. Okay, so what I would encourage you to do is, at the very least, have like a journal or a notebook that you can write these questions down in, because I think having the visuals will help. But I'll also include these thought prompts and journal prompts in the description below as well, so that you have them written out if you just want to sit with them and think about them. So we're going to go through 10 different questions, and I really want you to be honest with yourself and just allow whatever to flow through without judgment, if you can prevent that. Question 1. What experiences come to mind when you ask yourself the question of, what experiences made you who you are today? When answering that first question, I encourage you to have 1 to 3 experiences that you can list that either changed your beliefs of the world, changed your beliefs in general, or even changed your view of yourself. Question 2. If you could use only 1 to 2 words to explain what emotion or emotions you were left with after each experience, what would that or those emotions be? Question 3. What actions do you feel helped you manage or process the emotions that you were left with after those experiences? Question 4. In a few sentences, describe what your current belief is or current beliefs are. Question 5. Do you believe in a God, multiple gods, no gods, or that you are your own God and or authority over yourself? Question 6. If you believe in a God or gods, do you believe that they control and or have the ability to change what happens to you, or that they are only there for support and or guidance? Question 7. Do you believe that you have morals outside of the guidelines of those gods, or do you feel comfortable with self-direction in terms of your morals? Question 8. If there were no consequences to your actions spiritually, eternally, or societally, how would or wouldn't that change your approach to life? Question 9. When looking at your answer to question 8, how does that make you feel about yourself in terms of your morals, beliefs, and your view of yourself? And the last question, question 10. How do you think the experiences that you have had in your life shaped the approach you mentioned in question 8? With all of that said, I want you to sit with these questions and really approach them with honesty, but also try to not go in with a judgmental view of yourself as much as you're able to, because really there's no right or wrong answers to these questions. It's more so questions that can help you to just understand why you have the beliefs that you do, why you approach your practice and or spiritual beliefs and or religion the way that you do, and maybe even the way and the reasons why you look at other people's beliefs and religions the way that you do. And I think understanding these things and understanding why we approach these things from the spaces that we do can be so helpful in so many regards and help us to really understand our beliefs and the way that we approach them on a deeper level, which I think is very, very important with any spiritual practice, any religion, and any approach to life, even if it's atheism or agnosticism. I just think that understanding ourselves on a deeper level, and I've said this many times in the podcast and in my teachings and things like that, that knowing yourself is knowing your power. And this is part of that. This is part of understanding yourself and your beliefs on a deeper level so that you understand your power in your situation, your power in your belief, your power in your practice, and why you need it where it is. So I really encourage you to sit with this. If you're comfortable sharing what came up for you or what insights or what breakthroughs, even if there are any, you had with these question prompts in the comments or in the Discord community or wherever you can find me, I would appreciate it so much because I just find this topic so fascinating and it was just so thought-provoking for me and really had me viewing my practice and my beliefs and things from such a different space. And I think that's just so helpful and refreshing to do multiple times in our lives. So hopefully this was helpful for you. I know that this episode was quite short, but I wanted to keep it on the shorter end simply because of how impactful it was for me anyway, thought-wise. So yeah, hopefully it was helpful and hopefully this finds you doing well and in good health. And I hope you come back in April for the podcast episode. And if so, I will see you then. All right. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for being a listener. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.